Hi everyone, thanks for coming. And today I'm here to present a new way to manage workflows in Liferay. And to begin, I would like to take a brief moment to talk about what is a workflow. So, according to the Cambridge Dictionary, a workflow is the way that a particular type of work is organized, or the order of the stage in a particular work process. Well, actually, you can find a workflow anywhere. You can find a workflow on your professional life, in your job, like the simple process of hiring a new employee, but you also can find a workflow in your personal life. Example of it is when you go grocery shopping. So if you go grocery shopping, you have the stages that you have to fulfill. So first stage, you gotta go to the supermarket or the grocery store. Second stage, you gotta grab yourself a basket or a shopping cart. Third step, choose the products. Fourth step, go to the cashier, and so on. So that's also a workflow. And another thing is, a workflow can be either manual or automated. A manual workflow is the example that I just gave you. You have to do everything by yourself. There is no automation. You do all the tasks you. And when you talk about automated, usually there is some kind of software or platform that automates some repeatable tasks for you. So if you have an app which you can order the groceries to deliver by your door, that's a way to automate this process. And this leads me to my next question, that is, why should I automate business process? Well, if you run a workflow manually, you gotta have a lot of work. You have to waste time. You have to usually deal with lots of paperwork, lots of sync, lots of meetings, and that's not really efficient. So when you improve your workflow, you can improve your productivity. And one of the best ways that you can have to improve your workflow is to automate it. And I brought you guys 3 reasons for that. The first one is because this way you can reduce costs and improve efficiency. Because when you automate, you can cut to half or even more the time that takes to you to accomplish a task. And this way gives more time so you can focus on what really matters. Focus on the core of your business. Focus on what really only you can do, not a machine, the thinking. And second, you can provide a better and a great customer service because you can process more, you can handle more, meaning that this also gives you to reduce the time to provide a service to a customer. And when you reduce the waiting time for them, you usually make them more happy. And when customers are happier, they are more willing to give recommendations, and recommendations to lead to new clients, and new clients leads to more revenue and more profit. And for last, you can improve the communication. Because now, if you automate it, everyone can have timely access to the information that they need to perform the task. So you don't need no more constant thinking, no more meaningless meetings. And at the end of the day, you end up with more free time, more customers, and more profit. Well, so let's say that you achieve that. You automated your workflow, and you have it running. But the thing is that enough? Can you say that just because you automated, you are getting the best of your workflow process? So let's say that those customers that you got, the new clients, are starting to get you to process more, to handle more, and you feel like what the process that you have right now cannot handle what's coming, and your customer service start to fall apart. So how can you see that coming? How can you prevent that? And the answer for this is continuous improvements. So to order, you have to measure what's going on. You have to understand what's happening. So this way you can learn, understand, and act to optimize and solve the problems before they happen. But the thing is, it's not so simple to apply this to a workflow. A workflow is invisible. You cannot see just data going back and forward, and it's hard to track, it's hard to act. And to give you guys an example of how complex it can be, I brought you this real-world scenario process that's from a real customer. So this process has more than 100 steps and 100 transitions. So the thing is, how can you measure something like this? Where can you identify where are the bottlenecks? So who is the assignees, who is the persons that are working like crazy to make this happen? So you have questions that you need to answer, and the best way to do it is to make it visible. And that is where the workflow metric comes in. We want you to empower the process managers to understand what's happening on the process, discover, measure, and optimize. And to help you do that, we have divided the workflow metrics in two parts. The first part is the SLA. Here is how you're gonna tell workflow how he should measure your process. Basically, because it's the SLA, we're talking about the time dimension. So how should I measure the performance of my workflow? And second is the reports. Here is where you get what was measured, analyze the data, learn from it, and act. And that's how you can define SLA in Liferay. Here, you are able to tell how Liferay should measure your processes. You can say in which parts of your process you should start measuring, should start counting the SLAs, in which steps he should pause or resume, and which part he should stop. And most important, you can define the time to be met. What's the acceptable time that the process should take in order to you maintain a great customer service? So if what was measured is higher than the time that you defined over here, an instance or item in your process is considered overdue. And this is very flexible, so if you have a different need for working days or business hours, you have extension points that you can customize and adapt the workflow calendar to your needs. And when we talk about the reports, we offer you two types. The first one we call the dashboard. The dashboard is where you can see what is happening right now. You see the pending items. And here, you can learn what's happening and act beforehand, before the problem occurs. And the second report is the performance. Here, you see all the data and all the metrics regarding what was completed. So you can learn from your history and improve for the future. And both of these reports are divided in 4 levels. The first one, we call it the high level. This is overall status on the deadline. So you can see here how many items, how many instances are overdue, how many are on time, how many do you have to process, and so on. You have the steps level. So here you can understand the performance of each step that you have. You can understand where are the bottlenecks, what's running smoothly, and what is not. We have the assignees, so you can understand the performance of the team members that's acting on that process. So this way you can understand who is performing well and maybe who needs close attention. And last, we have the instances. Here you have access to individual data of a specific instance. So start with the high level. This is the workflow metrics. You can access it through the control panel in the workflow menu, and you see here an option named metrics. And the first screen that you see is this one. Here, you can choose which process that you have that you want to analyze. After you choose a process, you see the first report, the dashboard. And the high level is this card here on the top. Here is where you can see how many of your pending instances are overdue and how many are on time and what you have the total pending or even what's untracked, which means like something that maybe you are new item that you receive before you configure SLA or something. So you can track everything. And on the performance, you have also the same information, meaning that you have now the information of which items that were completed was completed overdue, which ones were completed on time, and so on. But also, we also give you another important metric that is the completion velocity. Here, you are able to see what's the throughput of your process. You can understand how many items you can process at a time. So this way, you avoid making commitments with more that you can handle. And not only that, but you also are able to see the historic of the throughput. This way, you not only know what's your current velocity, but you also are able to understand, am I improving? Am I getting worse? Do I need to act? Where I'm going? So this is also very helpful. And you can choose the time frame, and we try to adapt as much as possible to make sense for your business. And moving forward, we have the steps level. On the steps level, you see here, just under the other card that I just showed, and here we will list for you all the steps that you have in your process. Not only that, but also give you the information which steps has more items overdue, which ones are running smoothly and have on time, and the total that you have. So here you can understand which steps of your process are acting as a bottleneck. And on the performance, it's also here on the bottom, and you can see that on the performance, the matrix is a little different. Because now we give information that can help you understand what's the performance and where are the problems that you have. So we have the average time that takes for our instance or item to go through that step, and also the number of SLAs that were broken when an instance was on that step. So with both informations, you can understand which steps are delaying the most your process, are taking the most time to accomplish, and which ones are running well. So maybe you can identify which steps are the problem and act on them, maybe do a redesign, or even hire more people to act on that step specifically, and those kind of actionability. So you can set like the time range that you need. And on the iSigning level, you find here on the right part. Here, you have the information of the current workload that you have. You can see for each assignee that you have for tasks, how many items are they responsible for, and from that, how many are overdue, how many are on time, and even if you are in a use case where you have like each assignee can only act on one specific step, you can filter it by the step, by the task that you have, and it will show you the workload on that specific step only. So on the performance, we also have information that's a little different, because here, instead of just showing the number of overdue and on time, you actually have information to the average time that that person specifically takes to accomplish or the entire process, so the time that he takes to take item to start to the end, or even like on the dashboard, you can create filters by role or by step. So this way you can understand the performance of someone on a specific role, on a specific step. And the last one is the instances. Like I said, this is the individual level. This one you can access from both reports, the dashboard and the performance. But here, you can actually click on any of those numbers, and when I click one of those, I'll have access to this screen. This screen will list to me all the instances that I have on that particular situation. So here, I have the instances that are assigned to a specific person, that are also pending, and that are also overdue. So I can analyze individually each one of those. And when I click, I have access to this screen that gives you more detailed information, so I can make better analysis on each item. Not only that, but if you need to act on it, it also gives you some possibilities. For instance, to do a reassignment. So here I can choose the instances. If I see that someone is overloaded with so much items, I can get some of the tasks and reassign to someone else. And another thing that I would like to talk about is that all this information, all those metrics that I just had, are part of Liferay headless APIs, meaning that you can use those APIs to get these informations and integrate and display anywhere you want. And, well, one more thing is that what's coming next. So if you're wondering what's coming next for the workflow metrics, we have two major stories that we want to achieve in the next versions. The first one, it's more actionability. We want you to give more options to act and optimize your processes. So we have the reassignment, but we also want to give maybe bulk transitioning options to approve, reject a number of instances, as well as maybe mark something as blocked and so on. And the second story that we have is to use the power of machine learning and AI to use your historical data and predict outcomes, predict patterns of delivery, and give you more power to act beforehand. And basically, those are the two guidelines that will drive the next improvements on the workflow metrics. And yeah, basically, that's it that I have for you guys today. Thank you much for coming, and that's it.
Thank you, Matheus. So we have a little bit of time for questions. So if there's any questions out there, just let us know.
How are the various metrics taken from? So how do you collect all the data that you can display about all the metrics of the workflow?
I don't know if I understood correctly, but the data that you have, like when you configure the SLAs and you configure SLAs per process, what you do is when a process is going through the steps, it calculates on beneath like the time that they have. It compares with the time that you set on the SLA we met. Basically, all the data is gathered from the daily use combined with what you configured on the workflow, on the workflow SLAs, and this calculates all the data that is given on the reports. Is that what you?
Thank you.
Did it answer it?
Yes. Yes. Is it working?
Yeah, actually, we have the high-level data. One part is already on 7.2 SP1, but some of those metrics are coming only on 7.3. You have to ship it in parts.
Hi, just a quick question. So, is it possible to delegate the access to the reporting to the different parts of the business? So, for example, a payroll area could look at the payroll workflows, and a finance area could look at the finance workflows, or is it all sort of global inside Liferay?
Yeah, right now, everyone gets access to everything. You don't have how to make the permissioning on who can access each part of the report. Basically, if you have access to the flow metrics, you'll have access to the dashboard, the performance, and all the metrics and in any process.
So is there any plan to sort of lock it down, I guess, or compartmentalize the different workflows so you could actually, as a business, have different areas responsible for different workflows and be able to see how their workflows are going? Is there any plans for that, or is it going to stay sort of global in the configuration?
That actually makes sense. Right now, I can say that it's something that's already set to be done, but we can talk about it, and I can better understand the use cases, and maybe we feel like this can be shipped on the next version, but it's something that right now is not on the plans, but it may be. We can talk about it and see if it's fit for our next goals and our next versions.
You could probably use the APIs, right, as well, the new headless APIs. You could build some micro front ends to...
Yeah, actually, yeah, you can use the APIs to customize and get this by customization yourself.
Any more questions? One from down the front.
I was wondering how the analytics will handle the workflow as you change it. So if you were to add, some extra tasks or some extra transitions to your workflow, how will the reporting sort of adapt to that? You have filters for time frames, so that 30-day mark or the 40-day mark, will it just be the same report, but it will be slightly different depending on the time that's passed?
Yeah, right now it will aggregate everything, all the updates. But what we want to do that is also planned is to give you a filter by version. So when you update workflow, you get access to a filter where you can choose the version, and you'll be able to see the report on a specific version only, or even everything. But it's not ready right now, but it's in the plans.